what we've seen over the last couple of days is a major escalation of this conflict. I mean, the Polish government describes what the Belarusian regime has been doing as a hybrid war. And until now, it's been small groups, ones or twos of small groups of people that the regime has brought over on chartered flights to Belarus and then pushed them to the Polish border and tried to get them to cross. But what we've been seeing over the last couple of days is a major escalation of this. I mean, we're moving from a situation where we had a sort of hybrid war to a very dangerous situation where, you've got thousands of people potentially moving to the border, and you've got armed border guards on both sides, one trying to push them across and one trying to prevent them from coming over. So it's really a very dangerous situation at the moment on the Polish-Belarusian border. And a spark, a single spark, could really set things off in a very unpleasant way and lead to an even more serious escalation.
Temperatures in the region are dropping. There's reports of snow. People are beginning to die in these sub-zero temperatures. Something's got to give. And in your view, what will that be?
Well, I think the problem here is that if the Polish government or indeed the Latvian or Lithuanian government start to admit the migrants that are gathered on their border, this will be seen as a sign of weakness by the Belarusian regime. And it's then very, very difficult if you sort of allow a few individual cases or a number of cases to stop this from then becoming a flood, because you've then set a precedent. And that, I think, will not lead to an end to the crisis. It will simply lead to Lukashenko concluding that this works and therefore let's keep putting on the pressure. So I think what's got to happen is there's got to be some counter pressure put on Minsk to try and stop them from using this tactic. And what's the main thing that's being discussed at the moment is trying to put pressure on the flight carriers that are flying people over from the Middle East and North Africa to Belarus to try and stop them from doing this. I mean, the Polish government's already been trying to put diplomatic pressure on those countries, and to some extent this has been successful. But what they want to happen is for this to really be cut off at source, and that the key way they see of doing this is by stopping those airlines that are currently flying people in. I mean, they're obviously doing it legally. They've got visas to be in Belarus, although not to proceed any further. And I think that's the only way that the crisis is really going to stop, because as long as it is destabilizing the situation, which is precisely what Lukashenko wants and also what Moscow wants, who's working very closely with him, he will carry on doing this. And as I say, simply allowing migrants to come in, the conclusion that Lukashenko will then draw is this works, so we're going to carry on doing it, and it's going to carry on destabilizing the region and indeed Europe more generally, because these people don't want to go to Poland or Latvia and Lithuania. They want to come further west, particularly to Germany.
We've got our own migrant crisis in this country, albeit it's led by a criminal fraternity. This, as you say, is political. But why should we care?
Well, I think we should care because what we saw in 2015 was a situation where a largely uncontrolled influx of migrants to Greece and Italy set off a crisis which had ramifications across the whole of Europe. Obviously, members of the EU in particular, which the UK is not a member of the EU, but to have a migration crisis occurring on the continent is a very, very serious issue. And that's obviously why Lukashenko is doing it. He knows the impact that situation had in 2015. He knows that the crisis that set off, particularly in the post-communist states of Central and Eastern Europe. And that's the playbook that he would like to rerun. I mean, what's at stake here, and the EU has kind of, belatedly woken up to this, is the integrity of the EU's external border, the EU Schengen border. And if this situation ends with Lukashenko's tactic being successful, then that basically means that the EU's eastern border is no longer secure. I mean, it can easily be breached, and that will have major implications. And of course, apart from encouraging the Belarusian regime, it will encourage, as you say, all those people who are engaged in, criminal people trafficking to try and exploit people, to try and say to them, yes, there is a passage into the EU through this weak spot on the Polish and Lithuanian and Latvian and Belarusian border, which will, of course, create further misery for lots of people, which you've rightly drawn attention to, find themselves stuck in that horrendous situation on the Polish and Belarusian borderland. But they're there, of course, because they've been brought there on a false promise that they can easily get into the EU.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.